We all have a best friend, someone who knows all our secrets, sees us at our worst, and still chooses to stay. But what happens when that same friendship becomes the center of something unexplainable, something terrifying? So let's dive deep into 6 real-life terrifying stories and see how close bonds can sometimes open doors that should have stayed shut. All right, let's jump into the first story, where a simple sleepover between 2 best friends turns into something straight out of a horror movie. The sleepover possession. You know how sleepovers are supposed to be chill? Just popcorn, scary movies, and fun vibes? Yeah, this one was nothing like that. Emily and Claire had been best friends forever, like since kindergarten. One Friday night, Emily invited Claire to her family's cabin in the woods. The place was kind of old, but cute. No Wi-Fi, no neighbors, just the 2 of them and a bunch of horror movies on a laptop. Everything was totally normal for most of the night. They joked around, played music, and even made s'mores in the fireplace. Around midnight, they started watching this super creepy exorcism movie. They were kind of laughing at it, saying how fake it looked and how they'd never get scared of something like that. But here's the thing. Around 3:12 a.m., stuff got weird. Claire suddenly stopped moving, like completely froze. Emily thought she was messing around, maybe acting out a scene from the movie. But then Claire started whispering something, and it didn't sound like her normal voice. It was deeper, like it was coming from inside her chest. Emily leaned closer and realized Claire was speaking Latin. They had never learned Latin, and Claire had never even heard of it. Her eyes were wide open, not blinking. She looked empty, like she wasn't even there anymore. Emily panicked. She started shaking Claire, calling her name over and over. But Claire just kept whispering those weird words and staring at the wall. This went on for about 3 to 4 minutes. Then, all of a sudden, Claire blinked, looked super confused, and asked, "Why are you crying?" She had no memory of what just happened. Emily didn't want to scare her more, so she just said she had a nightmare. But deep down, Emily was freaking out. She barely slept that night. The next morning, she checked the cabin's security camera footage. Her dad had installed it for safety, and what she saw gave her actual chills. In the video, Claire had walked over to an old wooden trunk in the corner of the room, one that had always been locked. Somehow, it was open. She sat on the floor and started writing in this dusty old notebook. The handwriting looked super neat and old-fashioned, not like Claire's at all. Emily recognized that book. It belonged to her great-grandmother, who had passed away decades ago. Her family always said she was a little strange, into spirit stuff and rituals. The diary had been locked away for years, and no one ever touched it. Later that day, Emily secretly checked the diary again. Claire had written a full page in it, in perfect cursive, and it matched the rest of the entries, like it was written by the same person from the 1930s. Claire didn't remember writing anything. After that weekend, they never went back to the cabin again. Emily's family eventually sold it. Claire doesn't talk about that night anymore. And Emily? She still keeps the diary hidden under her bed, just in case. But just when you think things can't get weirder than a possessed friend, what if the ghost comes back because of a promise you made? The haunted mirror pact. You ever make a pinky promise and think, haha, whatever, it's just a joke? Yeah, Megan and Rachel did too, until it wasn't funny anymore. So these 2 girls, Megan and Rachel, had been best friends for like ever. They were the kind of friends who could finish each other's sentences, shared hoodies, even had matching bracelets. Total inseparable vibes. One weekend, they hit up this old flea market just for fun. It was one of those dusty places with creepy dolls, broken clocks, and antique furniture that probably had a million germs. Megan spotted this old, fancy-looking mirror tucked behind some boxes. It was tall, the glass looked a little foggy, and the frame had weird symbols carved into it. Rachel goes, "Ooh, haunted mirror," in a totally joking way. Megan laughed and said, "Let's summon a ghost or something." You know, dumb stuff teenagers say when they're bored. Then Rachel pulled out her phone and found this TikTok trend where you say a spirit bond pact in front of a mirror. Basically, you hold hands and say, if one of us dies first, she has to come back and say goodbye. They even pinky promised while doing it. Total joke, right? 3 months later, Rachel died in a car crash. It wasn't one of those slow, expected things. It happened out of nowhere. Her car skidded off the road during a thunderstorm. Megan was devastated, like completely heartbroken. They were supposed to grow old together, be each other's bridesmaids, all that stuff. And just like that, she was gone. Megan couldn't sleep for weeks. Everything reminded her of Rachel, even the mirror, which she'd taken home that day from the flea market. She had kept it in her room, thinking it looked kinda cool. But now, it just gave her chills. On Megan's birthday, literally at midnight, the mirror cracked. No one touched it. It didn't fall or anything. It just made this sharp snap sound, and a long crack appeared right down the middle. Megan stared at it, her heart pounding. And then her phone rang. She looked at the screen and froze. The caller ID said, Rachel. Megan's hands were shaking. She hadn't deleted Rachel's contact. She figured it would just stay there, silent, forever. But now it was ringing. She answered it. There was no video, just darkness. And then, something even creepier happened. Megan heard a voice, but it wasn't Rachel's. It was herself. Her own voice, softly saying, I didn't forget our promise. She dropped the phone, screamed, ran out of the room and slept on the couch. Her parents thought it was just stress or grief, but Megan knew what she heard. It was like Rachel had used her voice to say goodbye, just like they'd promised in front of that stupid mirror. The next day, Megan moved the mirror to the attic. She wrapped it in blankets and duct taped the whole thing shut. She hasn't looked at it since. People ask her if it was just a dream or maybe a glitch. Some say grief makes your brain do weird stuff. But Megan doesn't care. That pinky promise? It worked. That was creepy, but at least it started as a joke. The next story? It begins with a dare in the forest and ends with a terrifying silence. The forest game that went too far. All right, let me tell you about the dumbest and creepiest game of hide-and-seek ever. So, Jason and Tyler were best friends. You know the type. Always trying to out-dare each other, always saying, you won't do it, just to see the other one prove them wrong. They lived in this small town where nothing much ever happened, so they made their own fun. One night, they were hanging out at Jason's place, and Tyler brought up the forest just outside of town. Everyone in their town kinda knew the stories, how it used to be a Native American burial ground, how weird stuff happened there at night, how some people heard whispers when walking past it. Classic urban legend stuff, right? Anyway, Tyler says, let's go there. Right now. Midnight. Hide and seek. Just us. Jason laughed, but of course he said yes, because saying no would mean being scared, and neither of them ever admitted that. So they grabbed flashlights and biked out to the forest. It was pitch black. No moon, no stars, just trees and silence. Honestly, Jason said later that he already had a weird feeling walking in, but didn't say anything. They set a timer on Tyler's phone for 20 minutes. Jason would count first, and Tyler would hide. Jason counted out loud, standing near the edge of the trees. When the timer beeped, he called out, "Ready or not, here I come," and started looking for Tyler. He walked deeper into the forest, following a trail, but every time he thought he heard something, it wasn't Tyler, just rustling leaves, maybe an owl. 10 minutes passed, 15, nothing. He started yelling, "Tyler, this isn't funny." Finally, he saw something. A flashlight on the ground, pointed up toward a tree, and Tyler, just standing there, alone, under a huge tree with weird red markings all over the bark. Not spray paint, not carved, just there, like blood had soaked into the wood or something. Tyler was staring straight ahead and laughing, not like, haha, this is funny, laughing. like creepy, high-pitched, totally blank expression laughing. Jason froze. He didn't even say anything at first. He just watched. After a minute, he finally ran up and grabbed Tyler's arm. "Dude! What are you doing?" he shouted. Tyler blinked, looked at him and said, "You found me." That's it. Nothing else. They left the forest immediately. But here's the weirdest part. Tyler didn't talk again for 2 whole days. Not a single word. His parents thought he had a panic attack or something. Jason didn't know what to say, so he just avoided talking about it. When Tyler finally spoke again, he looked dead serious and said just one thing. "They showed me how it feels to die." Jason asked who they were. Tyler didn't answer. He just looked away. A week later, Tyler's family pulled him out of school and moved to another town. No goodbye, no explanation. Jason hasn't heard from him since. He still passes that forest sometimes, but never goes near it. He swears that same tree with the red markings is still there. And sometimes, when the wind blows just right, he says it sounds like someone is whispering. Running into something dark in the woods is bad enough. But imagine waking up in your hotel bed and seeing something crawling across the ceiling. The shadow between beds. Okay, so you know that feeling when you're half asleep but suddenly feel like someone's watching you? Like your body freezes, your heart speeds up, and your brain's like, "Don't open your eyes," but you do it anyway? That's exactly what happened to Lily. She and her best friend Madison were on a school field trip, one of those weekend science camp kind of things. Their class was staying in this old hotel, kind of fancy but also kind of creepy in a vintage way. You know, dim hallways, flickering lights, weird patterned carpets, and heavy doors that creaked. Lily and Madison were assigned room 308, 2 twin beds. Nothing weird at first. They were laughing, eating snacks, and scrolling through TikTok like any normal night. That was night 1. At around 2:30 a.m., Lily woke up suddenly. No sound, just that eerie silence that makes you feel like something's off. She sat up and saw what looked like Madison sitting on the edge of her bed, facing her. Lily squinted in the dark and whispered, "Madison?" No answer. Just staring. The weird part? Madison's face wasn't clear, like it was too shadowy even for the lighting in the room. Lily leaned forward a little, and that's when she realized Madison was still asleep in her own bed. The real Madison. The thing sitting on the bed. It was just gone the second Lily turned on the lamp. She freaked out, woke Madison up, and told her everything. Madison said maybe Lily was dreaming or just seeing things because of the trip excitement. But Lily knew she was fully awake. She barely slept after that. Then came night 2. They left the lamp on this time, hoping it would help them relax. They were almost asleep when it happened. Lily opened her eyes and saw a shadow, not a person, just this black, human-like shape, crawling across the ceiling. Like it had no face, no features, just arms and legs dragging itself across the ceiling like it didn't care about gravity. She gasped, and Madison woke up too. Before either of them could say anything, the shadow paused above them and whispered their names, both of their names, at the same time. It didn't sound like a voice. It sounded like air being pushed through a whisper from all directions. They screamed, jumped out of bed, and ran straight to the lobby in their pajamas. The night staff thought they were just pulling a prank, but they were shaking so hard, it was obvious something had messed them up. Here's the creepiest part. The hotel manager came in the next morning after hearing about the incident. When he found out they were staying in room 308, he went pale. Turns out, that room had been closed off for years, until recently. 2 sisters had stayed there almost a decade ago during a family vacation. One of them died in her sleep. The other one was found the next morning sitting on the edge of the bed, completely unresponsive. She never spoke again. Nobody ever figured out what happened. After that, the room was just used for storage, until it accidentally got listed as available again. Lily and Madison were the first people to sleep there in years. Shadows on the ceiling are scary, sure. But what if your birthday wish actually came true and trapped your best friend in your life? The birthday candle. Wish. This one sounds like a weird movie plot, but it actually happened, and it still gives me chills when I think about it. Brooke and Olivia were best friends since middle school. They did everything together: cheerleading, sleepovers, late-night FaceTime calls about literally nothing. You know the kind of friendship that feels like family? That was them. When Brooke turned 16, she threw a small birthday party at her house. Nothing fancy, just cake, pizza, and a few close friends. Olivia was there, obviously, standing right next to her when it was time to blow out the candles. Everyone was shouting, "Make a wish!" And Brooke just laughed and looked straight at Olivia. Then she said, "I hope you never leave me," in that half-joking, half-serious kind of way best friends do. It sounded sweet at the time, like something you'd say without thinking. But that's when everything started to go wrong. Later that night, Olivia was walking downstairs to grab something from the kitchen. The lights were off. She slipped, fell down the entire staircase, broke her leg badly. She had to wear a cast for months and missed half the school year. Everyone thought it was just a random accident. But then weird stuff kept happening. Every time Olivia made plans to travel somewhere, something went wrong. One time, her car just wouldn't start. Another time, she got super sick the day before her flight. If she tried to make new friends or hang out with other people, something would happen. She'd get injured, or they'd randomly stop talking to her. It was like the universe was forcing her to stay close to Brooke. They didn't put it all together at first, but after a couple of years of bad luck and super strange coincidences, Olivia started to feel like she was stuck. Not in a friendship drama way, like spiritually stuck. Eventually, Olivia told her mom, who took her to this local medium. You know, someone who deals with energy, spirits, all that stuff. They explained the entire situation, and the medium went super quiet. Then she said something that made Brooke go cold. She said Brooke's birthday wish, "I hope you never leave me," was more than just words. Because Brooke had been so emotional when she said it, and because she made it in front of fire, like the candle flame, it somehow bound Olivia to her energy. Basically, Brooke had created a spiritual link without meaning to, and that link was holding Olivia back from moving on or growing apart, like some invisible chain. The medium said they had to perform a release ritual, something symbolic to break the connection and set Olivia free. It wasn't anything crazy, just candles, water, and both of them reading out a specific sentence while holding hands. But it felt real. After that night, things changed. Olivia moved away a few months later, got into a college on the opposite coast, started making new friends. No weird accidents, no strange vibes, just normal life. Brooke and Olivia still talk sometimes, but it's not the same. And here's the craziest part. Neither of them celebrates birthdays anymore. Not because they're mad or scared. It's just that after everything that happened, birthday wishes don't feel light or funny anymore. They feel powerful, like too powerful. Some wishes should never be made. And sometimes, after a funeral, your friend doesn't come back as the same person at all. The friend who changed. After the funeral, you ever look at your best friend and think, wait, this isn't them anymore? Like something in their eyes just doesn't feel right? That's what happened to Nick. Nick and Ben had been tight since they were kids. Video games after school, sleepovers every weekend, helping each other cheat on math homework, the usual. They knew everything about each other. At least, Nick thought he did. Then Ben's dad died. It was sudden, a heart attack. No one saw it coming. Ben was messed up, obviously. He didn't cry much, though. He just kind of shut down, stopped talking, stopped texting, didn't even come to school for a week. When he finally showed up again, something was off. Really off. He didn't sit next to Nick like he always did. In fact, he didn't talk to anyone. He'd just stare at Nick from across the room, not blinking, not smiling, just staring. Nick tried joking with him, asking if he was okay, but Ben wouldn't say a word. He looked thinner too, pale, like he hadn't been sleeping or eating. Everyone noticed, but no one said anything out loud. It was like we were all pretending it was normal. Then one night, around 3 a.m., Nick couldn't sleep. He was getting water from the kitchen when he glanced out the window and nearly dropped the glass. Ben was standing across the street, alone. No phone, no jacket. Just standing there, in the dark, looking right at Nick's house. At first, Nick thought maybe he needed help or was having a breakdown. But then he noticed Ben's mouth was moving, fast, whispering something, over and over. Nick opened the door and stepped outside to hear what he was saying. But the second he did, Ben stopped. He didn't move. He didn't even react, just stood there, staring. Nick called out, "Ben?" No answer. Then Ben turned around slowly and walked away down the street, still whispering that same strange sound. It wasn't English, not Spanish, not anything Nick had ever heard before. Just wrong. The next day, Ben didn't come to school. A week later, his mom showed up to clean out his locker. Nick caught her in the hallway and asked if Ben was okay. She looked exhausted and kind of scared. That's when she told him the truth. After the funeral, she took Ben to see this local spiritual healer, someone her cousin recommended. The idea was to help him let go of his dad's spirit. But she said something felt weird during the session, like the room went cold, the candles blew out, and afterward, Ben didn't cry or act relieved. He just got worse. She said the healer told her, "Some doors open by accident. Some spirits don't leave alone." Since then, Ben barely talks. He doesn't leave the house. And at night, she sometimes hears him speaking in that same creepy language in his sleep. Nick never saw Ben again after that day. He tried calling, texting, even going by his house, but Ben never came to the door. It's like he disappeared without technically going anywhere. But here's the part that really sticks with Nick. Sometimes, when he's walking home alone at night, he swears he hears his name being whispered. Super soft, super close, like someone's right behind him. He turns around, and no one's there. He doesn't say Ben is possessed. He doesn't claim to know what really happened. All he knows is, that night at 3 a.m., that wasn't the same Ben he grew up with. And whatever was staring at him, it still remembers his name. So, what do you think? Were these just strange coincidences? Or was something real going on? If you enjoyed these stories, hit the like button, share it with your friends, and let me know in the comments which one creeped you out the most.